ambitious women, and welcome to another week of Training Tuesday. Tonight we are talking about the big question. The big question that comes up when we second guess ourselves, which always seems to start with, what if? Right? The question when we second guess ourselves is always, what if? And the funny thing is that what if can be a really powerful question when we use it intentionally, right? With intention. However, what we're talking about tonight is but what if, which we typically do not utter with intention, but rather it's a little reactionary. It's a little bit of that voice in the back of our head piping up when we don't want it to. And it's uttered with fear. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference, right, of what it means when we utter the phrase what if with intention versus but what if. And what we're really going to focus on tonight is how we shift into intentional leadership. Intentional leadership that allows us to manage that second guessing voice, right? To manage those questions that keep popping up every time we make a decision and that can really derail us. And what I really want to talk about tonight is the significant impact that it can have, that this second guessing can have on us overall. Right? Second guessing has some significant impacts on how we show up to life. And for a lot of us, it's so habitual, that little voice in the back of our head becomes so habitual that we don't realize how significant that impact is and that you have control over it, that you can manage that. So that's what we're going to talk about. So first, hello, good evening. Thank you from wherever you're tuning in from. It is great to have you here. I see that Joyce is here and that Jill is here. Hello, ladies, and thank you for saying hi in the chat. You know how much I appreciate that. For those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Natalie Hahn. I am CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and you are here in our group, Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women. We are here every Tuesday night to talk about topics of leadership, skill building, confidence building, how we show up. How we show up anywhere is how we show up everywhere. So what do you want that to be? So we cover a variety of topics, and tonight we're talking about second guessing. I cannot tell you how many times this has come up this week. So whether you say hello in the chat, tell us where you're from. If you have questions as I go or comments, or you want to share your story, by all means do. The more the merrier when it comes to interactivity. It makes these a lot more fun too. So I started tonight by just saying, what if is a powerful question. And when it's intentional, it can be amazing for us. And when it's reactive, it can be very destructive. And the reason I picked this topic is because in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I've had this conversation about second guessing ourselves with clients, with prospective clients, and most importantly with friends too. This voice in our head that comes up, always questioning the choices we make. Now, when we utter what if with intention, it opens up the amazing possibilities, right? It's the what if. What if I did apply for that promotion? What if I did go on that vacation? What if I wrote that book? What if I started and just wrote a blog, right? What if opens up the possibilities? We can go anywhere. We can do anything. The what if, it's exploratory. It's brainstorming. It's fun, right? So that's what makes what if a powerful question, is it gives us the opportunity to open up and explore. However, when we're second guessing ourselves, we twist it a little bit and we go, but what if? And when we put the little but in front of it and the what if, we tend to go to worst case scenario. We go to the but what if I don't get the promotion? What if I tell my boss I want a raise, and what if he turns me down? Right? We twist it to the but what if, into the but what if all the things go wrong? And that can send us into a spiral. So, one of the reasons when I'm coaching, I focus on intentional leadership, I focus on dynamic leadership, is so that we can own those moments. We can manage that voice that questions, well, what if you're not ready? Well, what if you fail? What if you don't get the job? What if you don't have enough money for that thing that you want, right? The what ifs that play all to the negative do not have to own us, do not have to control ourselves and our reactions. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So my first question for you guys is, why do we even do this? Why does that voice come up? When is that voice triggered for you? So I'm just going to pause and say, hello, Mary. It's good to see you from St. Augustine, Florida. So Mary Beach is at the beach. That's awesome. St. Augustine's beautiful. And hello, Edith. It's great to have you here tonight. So the question is just, why do we do this? Why does that voice come up? And I'd love to hear, if you're willing to share in the chat, like, when is that voice triggered for you, right? What sort of situations raise this second guessing voice? First and foremost, it's just like, hello, imposter syndrome, right? Every one of you is a high performing, ambitious woman. That's why you're in the group. You have things you want to get done. You have goals. You might have a mission or a purpose that you feel, but you have things you want to achieve. Imposter syndrome, as it is defined, which is really this voice in our head that tells us you're not good enough, is strongest in women with big goals to achieve. So whenever I'm doing a training on imposter syndrome, I always say, congratulations. The prize you win for being smart and ambitious and creative and a go-getter is that you have this loud voice that says, are you sure you know what you're doing? So imposter syndrome is one of the reasons why we second guess ourselves, right? That voice that questions, do we have the right to be here? Are we really qualified? Who do you think you are? It asks all kinds of great questions that make us second guess ourselves. Sometimes, though, it can just be triggered by general anxiety. If in general you have a lack of trust in yourself, in your decisions, right? There's a little bit of this, I've always made poor choices, therefore I'm going to make poor choices. We do this all the time, even in our personal lives. Oh, well, I have terrible taste in men. I've always dated a series of bad men. So I go forward into future relationships with this idea that I can't choose a decent guy, right? I perpetuate my own anxiety around these things. We do it in our personal lives. We do it in our professional lives. It could be that some of the reason why you're second guessing yourself is because you were raised that way. Sometimes we are surrounded by family members who are constantly second guessing us. Usually it's because they're second guessing themselves. And so when we are somebody who doesn't trust ourselves, it means we don't trust anybody else either. So we're always questioning. So you could have been raised in an environment where second guessing was sort of the mode. It was what they did. Are you sure you want to make that decision? Are you sure that's the right choice? Maybe you should get another opinion. If you've been raised in an environment where those were sort of common themes, you've been trained to second guess yourself. So Joyce, sitting down to make phone calls to get info about something I need. Is that when you second guess yourself? That's the, do I really need this? Or should I make this call? Or will I sound stupid if I ask the question? Right? I don't know how you're second guessing yourself, but I can see some different areas where that might go. But that's just it, right? When we make a phone call, what are we doing? We're opening ourselves up to another person. And that can be scary because how are they going to judge us? And that is one of the things that kicks off that voice, right? That kicks off the second guessing is, what if they judge me? What if they think I should already have this information, so I shouldn't be asking? So what if they think I'm incompetent? What if they think I've made the wrong choice or I'm making the wrong decision? Fear of judgment will have us second guessing ourselves. We're worried about how we're being perceived by the outside world. Other people can plant the seed. So aside from maybe being raised in that environment, it could be you weren't raised in that environment, but You're going along doing your thing and you make a decision, and somebody who you hadn't really considered their opinion before, or maybe somebody whose opinion you really value, but you're going along going, oh yeah, I made that decision, I feel good about that. And then somebody else comes in and says, yeah, are you sure you want to do that? What made you do that? Somebody plants the seed of doubt. And when it comes from, say, an unexpected area in particular, that can trigger us. That can have us go, ooh, oh, maybe I should rethink that because I usually value their opinion. And the last thing I'm thinking of why do we do this, right? Why do we fall in this pattern of second guessing is actually what Joyce mentioned here, which is, am I asking the right question? Am I talking to the right person? Am I the right person, right? Lack of information. When we're walking into a situation or we have to make a decision around something where we don't have all the details, we do not have a complete picture or complete information, for those of us who might be just a little bit perfectionist, or who might be just a little bit liking to have control, not having all the data can be really uncomfortable. And so we second guess our choices. We second guess our decisions. We second guess our action because we don't have all the information. We're doing the best we can with what we've got, but because we don't, and we don't like that feeling of not having control of it, of not being able to confidently predict the outcome, it creates this gap of information, and immediately we start going, but what if it's wrong? But what if there's a better way? But what if, right? It's a deadly question when we put the but in front of it. But what if? Now, what's the impact? I said this was big, and that's why I wanted to spend a minute talking about, like, what is the impact when you second guess yourself? So when you're sitting there, for example, with Joyce, and she's about to pick up the phone, right, Joyce? What happens when you start the second guessing? And for any of you, when you're ready to sit there and do the thing or make the decision or move forward, and that voice pops up that says, are you sure? Do you really want to do this? You might not be ready. You're probably not really qualified, right? It throws those things at you. And they sound like reasonable, rational things. Because that imposter voice, right, it takes just a little kernel of truth or fear, and it wraps it up in something that sounds perfectly reasonable. And that's what it throws at you, which is why it's so effective. What's the result? Number one result, I can tell you, stress, stress, stress. When we second guess ourselves, our stress levels go sky high. And it translates into actions. And just like we perpetuate the negative thought when we're second guessing ourselves, we perpetuate negative action. When you are so in your head, right, you're ruminating in your head of the what if I fail? What if they think I'm not prepared or I'm not competent? What if somebody says that I'm stupid for having done this? What if, right? And it all happens up here. It's all in your head. What that translates into is lack of sleep, poor eating habits, from a self-confessed emotional eater, right? Poor eating habits. The negative self-talk, right? So we keep talking ourselves down because if I've made one poor decision, I've made another poor decision, and oh my gosh, every decision's at risk now. A lot of wasted energy. Have you noticed? We call negative people, right? The negative people who are like hanging on the fringes of our lives and we really don't want to hang out with them. What do we call them? Energy vampires. Why are they energy vampires? Because their negative energy is so strong it pulls at us. It's the same thing here. When we are ruminating in our head and second guessing every thought, that is heavy negative energy. We call it catabolic energy. It exhausts us. Wasted energy makes us tired, and guess what? We are now on the speedway to burnout. We are accelerating our path to utter anxiety, stress, and exhaustion when we are second guessing ourselves. We spiral. And when we're in that negative spiral, nothing good happens. Everything slows down. Why? Because you're so locked in your head, right? When I have the negative thought of, oh my gosh, am I making the right decision? Are they going to think I made a mistake? Are they going to think I don't know what I'm doing? Are they going to wonder why they put me in this position in the first place? My energy and attention are focused on the negative outcome. My energy and attention are focused on, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of me? Oh my gosh, I'm going to look dumb. How do I defend myself from this negative outcome? That, by the way, hasn't happened yet, but that's where your head is. When your head is in that space, you are not in the present moment. You are in the imaginary space of the future that hasn't happened, the future that I'm predicting, where they're going to think I'm incompetent, where they're going to think I'm not prepared, where they're going to think I've made the wrong choice. That hasn't even happened yet. But in my head, I'm so worried about it that I am not in the present moment, which means I'm not focused on what's important right now. I'm not focused on the job I have to do. I'm not focused on the people that I'm with or how I'm connecting. I'm not focused on the details or the actions I need to take, which means I'm distracted. Work isn't getting done, or it's getting done really slowly. I'm making mistakes, right? I cannot be productive and I cannot be at my best if my head is spiraling in this negative place going, what if, but what if, but what if? The other thing that happens, and I know you've observed this in others, is when you meet somebody who's got that negative energy going on, right? They're very anxious. They're very worried about what other people think of them. They're very concerned that they don't know what they're doing. You know it. We feel that energy, right? We feel the energy when somebody is not secure in the choices they've made or the direction they're going in. When it's you, when it's happening here and it's you, trust me, other people feel it too, which means the perception that's out there about you when you're in this spiral is that you lack confidence. And if you're projecting an image that says, I'm not really sure if I'm doing the right thing, you're not building confidence in anyone around you, not in the decision that you've made, nor in yourself as a leader. So we have to remember that our energy is contagious. The where we are in our head, the whether or not we're present, it's easily sensed by the people around us. And it's contagious. Second guessing ourselves is contagious. It's contagious in two ways. One, everybody else who's now witnessing us in our negative spiral, they're now second guessing. We were second guessing ourselves. That was bad enough. Now we're creating the energy in the environment where they are second guessing us too. And that feeds into our negative energy that says, see, it feeds the negative story that says, see, you weren't ready yet. See, you weren't prepared. When in fact, that's not the truth. It's just the energy that you are creating and building and fostering out in the world. The other way it's contagious is the minute we second guess a decision that we've made, a choice that we've made, and we start that spiral, every decision we've made, every choice we've ever made or that we're going to make is now at risk. We're going to second guess everything. Because the minute I decide that I'm terrible at choosing men, I'm also going to decide I'm terrible at evaluating employees. I'm terrible at picking out new bosses. I'm terrible at, and on it goes. Now I just have bad judgment, right? That's what that gets to. Like if you follow that through to the logical conclusion, every choice and every decision is second guessed because I just clearly make bad choices. How does that serve me? How does that help me show up as a leader? It doesn't. It doesn't. Second guessing yourself is not a leadership skill. We cannot lead if we are constantly living in the story of what if in our head, or if because we're second guessing ourselves, we're making no decision at all. We're making no leadership move at all. Cannot lead from a place of second guessing. So, how do we handle this? How do you step into being the leader that you are when you've got that voice in your head that's saying, yeah, but what if? So I promised you 3 steps, like three ways to look at this, to evaluate the moment, to help you move past the second guessing voice, right? That imposter voice that says, but what if you're not good enough? But what if you're not ready? But what if there is a better decision to be made? Right? So how do we handle those moments like the leaders that we are? First thing you're going to do is you need to do a real assessment. You need to assess where you are right now in the moment of your second guessing. So that voice pops up in your head and says those things, says, are you sure? Do you really know what you're doing? Do you really want to do that? Right now is the time to say, okay, what is true? What is true in this moment? We are not wishing the situation was different. We are not throwing in elements of things we don't know about what people think or what they feel or what they want. We don't know. We are simply focused on what is true right now. What is true? What do I know, think, and feel in this moment? And what is the true thought for where I'm at? Now, I'm going to give you an example. So, for example, I work with a team, and I have to look at my team and decide once a year, go through a review process, and we decide who gets promoted, who doesn't get promoted, what kind of bonus do they get, right? Typical annual review process. I have to look at my team and figure out who's doing what role and where they're going. So I make a choice that there is a member on my team who I know would like to get promoted. And I'm not promoting him. I'm actually moving him into a different role. Now the voice in my head says, are you sure? Are you sure you're not promoting him? Are you sure you should put him in a second role? What's that going to do to the team? What's he going to think about that? What are the impacts? Like, I can spiral that and snowball that into so many questions about what if and all the ways that might play out. He might be unhappy. He might quit. He might complain. He might get angry. The team might get unhappy about it, right? All kinds of ways this can go. So I have to focus in what's real. What's real right now is I have a team that I'm building, and I have certain skills that I need for each team member to own. And the role this particular person is in, he doesn't have the skill set for it. He does have the skill set for another role that my team needs, however. So rather than promote him into a role where he's already not succeeding, I'm going to move him. Now, I know he would like a promotion because his thought process, and he's told me this, which is why I know this is real, his thought process is the promotion will remove him from some of the daily skills that he doesn't have. And he would hire someone under him to take care of that. That's what he wants. I look at it as I need somebody who can actually do those skills. I don't really need a manager of those skills. However, I do need this second skill set over here, and he's a better fit for that. So what I know right now is that he's not performing as well in his current role as he could be. What I know is I have another role that I think he would be a better fit for. What I think is that is the better way for me to manage my team than to simply let him go or to promote him into a role that I don't really need and that I'm not sure he's ready for. And what I feel is that given the information I have about my team and where we're going, I feel like this is the best choice. I feel like this is the best option. That is what my experience and my intuition are telling me. That's what's real. Now, I don't know what his response is going to be. I don't know what the team's response is going to be. I don't know if this is going to play out the way that I hope it does. But in this moment, rather than stress about the other elements that haven't happened yet and that I can't control, I'm not going to second guess my decision. I'm going to say the new true thought. The new true thought is I am making the best choice for him and for the team based on what I know. So instead of the second guessing, the old thought of, are you sure you know what you're doing? Are you sure this is the best way to build the team? And the what ifs, I'm focusing on, based on what I know, I'm making the best choice. So I'm assessing where I'm at and I'm looking at what is real. Now, if you still find that voice is questioning, but what if, but you had three other options, but I could promote him anyway, but I could fire him instead, but I could foist him off on a different team altogether and not have him on my team anymore. Okay. So play it out. What were the three other choices you could have made rather than the decision you made? And think it through. I could have promoted him. What would that have looked like? I could have fired him. What would that have looked like? I could have tried to get him a role on a different team. What would that have looked like? And knowing those different scenarios, why did I choose my path? Here's the thing. We second guess our decisions when the truth is there was a reason we came to our conclusion. And typically our reasons are based on our knowledge, our experience, and our intuition. When we second guess ourselves, we're not trusting our knowledge, our experience, and our intuition. So the whole point of this assessment phase, right? Assess where you are and assess with what's real today, is to get really clean and clear on what do I know and why did I make this choice? Because I guarantee you 99% of the time, you made a thoughtful, logical, valid decision based on what you knew at the time. And that's the best you can do. So assess is phase one, or step one. Step two, when we're in that second guessing mode and we're questioning every choice, questioning our decisions, are we really prepared? Are we really ready? Did we make the right choice? Sit with the discomfort. Because a lot of times when that questioning voice is coming up, it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It feels like, oh, but what if I'm wrong? Oh, but what if they think I'm stupid? Oh, but what if? So sit with it. What is the scariest, most awful thing that can happen based on your decision? You could make a friend unhappy. You could disappoint someone you care about. You could miss a deadline. You could upset a client. In my case, with the example I gave you, I can disappoint an employee. Worst case scenario is I tell him that I'm changing his role and he gets very upset and he gets very emotional and maybe he's angry or maybe he's sad. Maybe he quits. Okay, so if him getting emotional and him quitting is worst case scenario, then what do? Well, I'm going to sit and let him own his feelings because those are his. What I can do for him in that moment is create the space where he can be angry and he can be upset and he can express that. I don't have to take it on, but I can be present in that moment with him as he processes the fact that he's not getting the promotion. If he gets upset and quits, right, he takes that a step further. Okay, so what can I do about that? Well, I can know that should he choose to leave, I'm going to have to backfill that position. So I'm going to have to hire somebody new, and I'm going to flip that into an opportunity. So the team might be disappointed if he gets upset and he quits, and I can flip this into an opportunity for the team by saying we have an opportunity to have someone on our team step into this role, or to hire fresh talent to come in and energize our team. But either way, while we may not be happy that this person who we value got upset and chose to leave, we can still look at this as a good thing for us. It's still a growth opportunity and a growth moment for us. Now, I'm not saying take a negative situation and make it all sweetness and light. What I am saying is you need to look at okay, but what am I going to do about it and what is in my control? I cannot control his reaction, but I can be present for it. And in my worst case scenario planning, which you're only spending a few minutes on, by the way, I can say, okay, but here's what I know. I've survived people quitting the team before. I've hired fresh talent onto the team before. We can make this work. When it comes to the negative emotion piece, whether it's your negative emotion because of the situation or another person's, it really is that embrace the suck kind of moment. It really is the breathe it in, feel it, breathe it out. And do that several times if you have to. You're allowed to feel disappointed. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel anxious and stressed. But you're also allowed to let it go. It doesn't have to control you or control your response. So you breathe it out and you say, okay, when it is time to deal with this, I will. And most importantly, I will survive it. I am resilient and I will survive this. So number 2 is sit with the discomfort. Go ahead and own it for a moment. You don't get to sit in discomfort for hours and days. You get to take 10 or 15 minutes and process through what's the scariest thing that can happen. How am I going to deal with that? Boy, that's going to suck if that does happen. but I'm going to let this go until I'm actually dealing with something, until I'm dealing with the reality. Third step, refocus, redirect. So if we've gone through the process of getting real, what's real right now, what's true right now, and what am I working with? And I understand that maybe this is going to suck. Maybe this is not going to feel great, but I know I can survive it, and I have an action plan for what I'm going to do if worst case does happen. Okay. Now, if I'm not having this conversation with this employee until next week, I got 5 or 6 days to sit through before we have an uncomfortable conversation. I can't spend 5 or 6 days worrying about it. Like we talked about earlier, what happens when we're ruminating in our head? And if I'm worried about this conversation the whole time, I'm not focused, I'm missing details, I'm making mistakes, I'm not present for people, I'm not getting anything done. I am not productive, I am not happy. And in fact, I'm building up my anxiety over what may end up being nothing, because he might be very happy with the new role I've carved out. I don't know. So, redirect your focus. Once you've got your plan and you know what's real and you know what you're dealing with, it is time to look around and go, okay, what is something else I can work on that needs my attention right now? Bring yourself, bring your mind and your energy into the present moment and say, this is what's in front of me now that really needs my attention. So I'm going to focus on this. And if you happen to be at the end of the day, or it's a weekend and it's more about personal time, then go do something to take care of yourself. Go to kickboxing, go to yoga, do some meditation, take a bubble bath, do aromatherapy, go get a massage, go hang out and have coffee with friends. Whatever you do that fosters self-care. Because here's the thing with that voice in the back of our head that's telling us we're not good enough, we're not strong enough, we're not pretty enough, thin enough, powerful enough, whatever. Here's the deal. We can't be the powerful, dynamic, ambitious women leaders that we are if we are not taking care of ourselves first. And that's just science. Like, I know that that's like trite and everybody says that, and every meme online is all about putting yourself first. But the scientific truth is, unless you are sleeping well, nourishing yourself well, taking care of your physical body by moving it well, then your ability to show up with positive energy, to show up with presence of mind and consciousness, and to respond when situations come up gets diminished. And instead of responding to what's happening around us, we're reacting. And the difference is, with responding, we're taking in information and we're choosing how we're going to respond in that moment, how we're going to act, how we're going to think, and what we're going to do. We're choosing it. It's intentional. When we're reacting, information is being thrown at us and we are in an instant throwing a reaction back. And in throwing that reaction back, we are typically responding from a pattern. We're reacting from an old pattern that may have nothing to do with the moment we're in, but it's triggered. It's triggered by that. So, sorry, my nose is running. So, you want to take time to recenter and refocus yourself and make sure that you're taking care of yourself, so that when that voice is coming up, you are in the best presence of mind, mentally, emotionally, and physically, to manage it. And maybe what you do is, instead of going for a run or going to yoga or taking a bubble bath, or instead of having coffee with friends or working on a work project, maybe you do a home project. Maybe it's time to rake the yard or weed the garden. Maybe it's time to go do a crafting skill. If you're a knitter or a crocheter, go do something, sew something, create, paint something. Do something that takes your energy and thoughts to a positive, caring place. You can't make your next move. You can't evaluate whether it was a good decision, a bad decision, a great choice, or a poor choice. You can't do that until you see how the first one plays out. So expending our energy worrying about 10 different worst case scenarios, total waste of time, total waste of energy. You want to focus your time and your energy on doing meaningful things, things that move you closer to your goals, things that eliminate that imposter voice, right? That minimize that second guessing voice and say, hey, you know what? I got this. I got this. And I'm going to move forward. And when this thing happens and it proves to be the best decision or the worst decision, it doesn't matter, because I will respond with the information I have at the time. All right, ladies, thank you for joining me for this tonight about second guessing. How do we quell that second guessing voice? So you want to assess where you are right now in the moment. You want to sit with any discomfort so you can process that, so that you can manage that. And then you want to redirect your focus until you're dealing with the real thing, until it's the here and the now and it's real. If you would like to spend some time talking about this, figuring out what you want your response to be, or managing that second guessing voice, let's have a coffee chat. We'll do a free 15-minute coaching call. We'll suss out the what's real right now and the how you want to manage that, and we'll get you a game plan. Drop the word dig in the chat, in the comments, and we will schedule that free call for us to help you sort out how do we quell that voice. But hopefully this training gave you some tips and some ideas of how to move forward with that. As always, ladies, lovely to spend my Tuesday with you. Always love my Tuesdays. Best evening of the week, and I will see you next time.